Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. For 12 years, the families of the victims of the World Trade Center attack of September 11, 2001 lobbied, raised money, and fought to get the government to release 28 secret pages of the congressionally mandated 9/11 Commission report. 28 pages that were considered too explosive for you and me to see. This summer, those families finally succeeded. The secret 28 pages of the 9/11 report were released to the public July 15th, 2016. What explosive findings did these pages contain? The missing 28 pages were, in fact, shocking. The Iranian television, Press TV, called me to do a report on these things, and my system went into a state when I read this stuff. But these 28 pages weren't shocking because they implicated the Saudi government or royal family directly in the 9/11 attacks. They didn't. They were disturbing because of what they revealed about the attitude of Saudis connected with the Saudi government and the Saudi royal family, who are functioning, operating here in the United States. 2 Saudis used government support to help a pair of future 9/11 hijackers in San Diego. Those hijackers were treated as students, and the Saudi government gives great assistance to its students in the United States, even if those students don't happen to be taking courses in anything. The 2 future hijackers posing as students were Khalid al-Midar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Says the report, the 9/11 Commission report, in its secret 28 pages, quote, after they arrived in San Diego in February of 2000, the 2 future hijackers got support from 2 members of the San Diego Muslim community. Those 2 were Osama Bosnan and Omar al-Bayoumi. There is no indication at all that Bosnan and al-Bayoumi had any clue about what these 2 Saudis were about to do. Well, almost none. That's not the shocking part. What's disturbing is Bosnan's attitude toward the USA. First, Bosnan and al-Bayoumi were so close that they called each other 3 times a day, and they were suspected by many people of being Saudi intelligence operatives. What did Bosnan and al-Bayoumi do for the soon-to-be hijackers? Say the missing 28 pages of the 9/11 Commission report, when the hijackers got to San Diego, they, quote, stayed at al-Bayoumi's apartment for several days until al-Bayoumi was able to find them an apartment. Al-Bayoumi then co-signed their lease and may have paid their first month's rent and security deposit. Adds the missing 28 pages after the 2 hijackers, al-Hazmi and al-Midar, moved into their own apartment, across the street, by the way, from al-Bayoumi and Bosnan. Al-Bayoumi threw a party to welcome them to the San Diego community. He also tasked Modar Abdullah, another individual from the Islamic Center of San Diego, to help them get acclimated to the United States. Abdullah served as the hijackers' translator, helped them get driver's licenses, and assisted them in locating, get this, flight schools. That's the end of the quote from the report. And Osama Bosnan, according to the 9/11 Commission report, bragged that he did even more for the pair of soon-to-be hijackers. Who were Osama Bosnan and Omar al-Bayoumi, the hijackers' helpers and hosts? Al-Bayoumi was supported by money that came indirectly from the Saudi government. It came from a Saudi airport services company as pay for a job that al-Bayoumi never did and only showed up for once. The company, when the airport services company told the Saudi government that it didn't want to keep paying al-Bayoumi for his non-existent work, the company was informed that if it cut al-Bayoumi from its payroll, it would lose its Saudi government contracts, which could have put it out of business. Al-Bayoumi, surprisingly, stayed on the payroll. In addition, says the 9/11 Commission report's secret 28 pages, quote, al-Bayoumi was known to have access to large amounts of money from Saudi Arabia. And at one point, he, quote, received $400,000 from Saudi Arabia to help fund a new mosque in San Diego. Were Basnan and al-Bayoumi on the radar of the top levels of the Saudi government and of the Saudi royal family? You bet. Basnan, where are we here? Basnan received at least one check directly from the account of Prince Bandar. And who is Prince Bandar? He's a member of the Saudi royal family who served as Saudi Arabia's ambassador to the United States from 1983 to 2005. 22 years, if my arithmetic is correct. Prince Bandar was Saudi Arabia's highest profile representative in America for, yes, 22 years. He was Saudi Arabia's ambassador to America through the Reagan era, the Clinton era, and 2 Bush eras. Not to mention through a war in Bosnia that we appear to have executed at the Saudis' behest, and 2 budget-busting wars against a Saudi enemy, Iraq's Saddam Hussein. Prince Bandar was so close to the Bush family that he was known as a family member. George W. Bush gave him the affectionate nickname of Bandar Bush. Prince Bandar was also known as an unofficial member of the White House team. Try getting that position. When Prince Bandar left the United States, he became Secretary General of Saudi Arabia's National Security Council from 2005 to 2015. Prince Bandar simultaneously acted as Director General of the Saudi Intelligence Agency, a very powerful position in a repressive regime. When Barack Obama refused to provide weapons and funding to the Saudi proxy army in Syria, the so-called Syrian rebels, in 2011, it was Prince Bandar who flew to Russia and met with Vladimir Putin to needle America and to show that Saudi Arabia could go elsewhere. Were Osama Basnan and Omar al-Bayoumi on Prince Bandar's radar? You bet. Osama Basnan got at least one check directly from Prince Bandar's bank account. And Basnan's wife received $82,000 in checks from Bandar and Bandar's wife, Princess Haifa. But here's the killer. What sort of people were Prince Bandar supporting as operatives in the American community? Basnan, the Saudi operative in San Diego, according to the report, quote, referred to Osama bin Laden as the official caliphate, the official ruler of the world, the Muslim ruler of the world, and the ruler of the Islamic world. Yes, Basnan sang Osama bin Laden's praises and was apparently a fan of Osama's war against America. What's more, when the number of Saudi Arabia's so-called students like the 9/11 hijackers, allowed into the United States was cut down, Basnan said it didn't matter. Why? Because there are already, this is a quote from the report, there are already enough Muslims in the United States to destroy the United States and make it an Islamic state within 10 to 15 years. End quote. Let me repeat that. Osama Basnan enthused about the idea of destroying the United States and making it an Islamic state within 10 to 15 years. What's more, Osama Basnan had hosted a party in 1992 in Washington for guess who? Omar abdel-Rahman. Omar abdel-Rahman is also known as the Blind Sheikh, and he went to prison for being the kingpin in the 1993 first attempt to bomb the World Trade Center, which knocked out 6 basement floors of the World Trade Center, but didn't bring the building down. And al-Bayoumi, Basnan's fellow operative, left the United States at a remarkably fortunate time, in August of 2001, just before the 9/11 attacks. These are the sorts of people that the Saudis were funding in the United States. At least one man who believes that it is the obligation of Muslims to overturn American democracy and transform North America into an Islamic state in your lifetime and mine. At least one man who wants North America to become a state ruled by Sharia, a state in which you and I, if we were allowed to live, would be at best second-class citizens. Citizens deliberately and fiercely humiliated daily for our lives, our roles as unbelievers. Citizens subject to a death sentence if we did anything that, quote, insulted Islam, close quote. Like the 62 Christians and others in Pakistan who have been killed for, quote, blasphemy, close quote. But the missing 28 pages of the 9/11 report reveals more about official royal family and government efforts to undermine the American system and slowly turn it Muslim. Say the missing 28 pages, the, quote, King Fahad Mosque in Culver City, California, built in 1998 with funding from Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Abdul-Aziz, is known for its anti-Western views. This is the mosque that is attended by the members of the official Saudi consulate in Los Angeles, all official representatives of Saudi Arabia and the United States. The CIA and FBI have identified the mosque in Culver City as a state of extremist-related activity. This is all quotes from the 9/11 report's missing 28 pages. An FBI agent said he believed that Saudi government money was being laundered through the mosque. But there's more in the missing 28 pages. The Saudi-based al-Qura Islamic Charitable Foundation, one of the biggest charities in Saudi Arabia, is described as being involved in, quote, suspicious money transfers, document forgery, that's passport forgery, providing jobs to wanted terrorist suspects, and funding travel for youths to attend jihad training. Yes, helping youths attend jihad training, training in killing unbelievers like you and me. According to reports cited in the secret 28 pages, al-Qura Islamic Charitable Foundation couriers transported more than $330,000 in cash, quote, most of which they received from Saudi embassies in the Far East, close quote. So the Saudi government is giving cash to a charity that helps train jihadists. The LA Times in 2002 reported that, quote, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has helped finance more than 1,700 mosques, Islamic centers, and schools worldwide, according to the Saudi embassy. Actually, that's a vast understatement if you include all of the madrasas in Pakistan alone. Quote from the LA Times, in the U.S., the kingdom reports it has fully or partially financed Islamic centers in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Fresno, Chicago, New York, Washington, Tucson, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Toledo, Ohio, among other places, many other places, as well as professorships at the University of California, Harvard, and many, many other major universities. Let's switch to a document I discussed with you last week. The 1991 Muslim Brotherhood's Strategic Plan for North America. According to that strategic plan, Islamic centers are spearheads, beachheads, with which to Islamize America. Remember what the Muslim Brotherhood Strategic Plan called for. It said that North America in 1991 was in the process of, quote, settlement, close quote. What is settlement? When the Muslims were driven out of Mecca, they moved to a town approximately 200 miles away, Medina. It was a Jewish town. Initially, they came in and were welcomed as guests. Eventually, they took over and killed any Jews who dissented from their policy of raiding camel caravans, killing people, stealing the goods, and then becoming involved in wars, conquest, and annihilations of entire tribes. Those Jews who complained or protested were killed in the middle of the night while they slept. And Medina, the town that had started hosting the fugitive Muslims, ended up as a Muslim military dictatorship run by Muhammad himself. That is settlement. So we, according to the Muslim Brotherhood document, are in the stage of settlement. Back to the document. Remember what the Muslim Brotherhood strategic plan called for. It said that North America was in the process of settlement. The process of settlement, it said, is a civilization jihadist process with all the word means. The Ikhwan, says the document, the brothers, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad. Close quote. What is the purpose of that grand jihad? Says the Muslim Brotherhood strategic plan. Quote, eliminating and destroying the Western civilization. How? Says the Muslim Brotherhood strategic plan, from within. Yes, eliminating and destroying Western civilization. How is that elimination and destruction to be done? By, quote, sabotaging its miserable house, the miserable house of Western civilization, by their hands, by the hands of those who are part of Western civilization, you and me, and by the hands of the believers, the Muslims, so that Western civilization, is eliminated, and God's religion is made victorious over all other religions. Remember, Islam is not a religion in our sense of the world. It is, quote, from the scholars, a total system of life that becomes complete with a judicial system, a governmental system, a military system, and even the manners and mores that tell you in what direction to turn when you urinate. A total system of life, what we call a totalitarian system. That is the Muslim Brotherhood's Islam. In other words, you and I are to be tricked into destroying our own civilization. What's more, says the strategic plan, it is a Muslim's destiny to perform jihad and work wherever he is and wherever he lands until the final hour comes. We are told that the vast majority of Muslims in America want nothing to do with this sort of subversion and conquest. And I believe it because none of my Muslim friends, all of whom are incredible people, would have anything to do with this, at least not to the best of my knowledge. I can sometimes be naive. But a small number of Muslims in America do want what Osama Basnan wanted, quote, to destroy the United States and make it an Islamic state within 10 to 15 years, close quote. In fact, that seems to be the mission of the Muslim Brotherhood and its 27 front groups in the United States, including the Council for American Islamic Relations, CARE, which shows up on television all the time telling us that Islam is a peaceful religion, and the Muslim Students Association, which has chapters on every major university campus in the United States. And at least in July 22nd, 2004, when the missing 28 pages of the 9/11 report were published, the folks who wanted to trick us into destroying our own civilization by our own hands so that Islam could take over were supported not just by stateless groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, the group that took over Egypt for over a year. They are supported by the Saudi royal family and the Saudi government. That's the shock in the secret 28 pages of the 9/11 Commission. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make, or, want to know why, ask how. And now for the sleazy, sneaky, slimy little, I think I've got it off button.